12 spine-chilling true stories of sinister neighbors. Every night, the haunting grew closer. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying dark secrets through the idyllic streets of Willow Creek, Ohio. Sarah had imagined peace when she moved here with her 8-year-old son, Liam. All around them, the charming houses boasted white picket fences, perfectly trimmed lawns, and friendly smiles. But every night, when the sun dipped below the horizon, the neighborhood transformed. That sense of calm? It was just a facade. Shadows grew longer and whispers floated like the crisp autumn leaves, wrapping her in an unsettling shroud of dread. "Mom," Liam said one evening, his voice trembling as he pulled at her sleeve. "What's that noise?" She brushed it off, thinking he was just scared of the dark. But as she tucked him into bed, she heard it too, the flutter of whispers creeping through the dimly lit hall. Goosebumps prickled along her skin. Who was there? She rounded her shoulders, trying to shake off the darkness, but it clung to her. Sarah felt the weight of unseen eyes watching. Things took a sinister turn when she learned about Mr. Arnold, the elderly man just 2 doors down. He always wore that signature warm smile, but the rumors about him hung thick like fog. People went missing, vanishing without a trace. Sarah felt an icy shiver zip down her spine when she confronted her neighbor about it one early morning. Mr. Arnold chuckled, dismissing her worries like yesterday's trash. "Coincidence, dear. Just coincidence," he chirped, but his eyes darted, revealing something lurking just beneath the surface. After attempting to report her concerns to the police, Sarah was met with a wave of apathy, a dismissive officer waving her off. "It's just your imagination, ma'am," he said, his irritation as palpable as the silence that followed. "Focus on your son." Frustration knotted in her stomach, but there was something deeper gnawing at her. The rules of their seemingly perfect neighborhood twisted and turned, leaving a darkened path behind. Determined, Sarah stayed up late digging through old police reports and online articles, leading her down a rabbit hole of grotesque legends. A historical coven operating in Willow Creek ruled through whispers and fear. Her heart raced as she pieced together the bizarre connections between mysterious disappearances and her neighbor's unsettling behavior. The meticulously maintained flower beds and clean sidewalks didn't reflect the darkness lurking beneath. One night, curiosity gnawed at her. She crept out while Liam slept, drawn toward Mr. Arnold's yard. As she inched closer, she glimpsed the flicker of figures, shadowy forms gathering, whispering with a sinister melody. Panic surged through her, threatening to choke her as she turned on her heel. The murmurs escalated, coalescing into a haunting chant that echoed her name, reverberating against the chill of the night air. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Sarah sprinted back to her house, her lungs burning, her heart thundering like a war drum. She bolted the door behind her, but it felt like the walls were closing in. What were those figures? What were they planning, and why did they call her name? The air became heavy with something more than just fear. It was dread so thick it felt suffocating. Her pulse quickened as she breathed in panic, once sacred sanctuary now tainted with the sinister whispers of her neighbor's secrets. With Liam's future hanging in the balance, Sarah stood at a precipice, afraid of the dangers that might consume her whole. Would confronting these supposedly kind-hearted neighbors awaken the lurking menace, or could she somehow uncover the truth before it was too late? The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, illuminating the mess of uneaten cereal and scattered toys in their cozy kitchen. But Sarah felt no comfort in the warmth of the sun. The shadows from the night before still clung to her, wrapping around her mind. She kept replaying the whispers, the flickering figures in that yard. An insatiable curiosity mixed with dread clawed at her, urging her to dig deeper despite the risk. "Mom, can we go to the park today?" Liam asked, his bright eyes sparkling, blissfully unaware of the darkness surrounding them. She managed a tight smile, fighting to mask her anxiety. "Sure, honey. Just let me get ready," she replied, all too aware that every place could harbor secrets, even the park. As they walked through the neighborhood, Sarah tried to act normal, but paranoia gnawed at her insides. Each home had its own personality, but today, they seemed to close in on her, walls whispering. She could almost hear them sneering at her naivety, bracing against the storm she felt brewing among them all. The park was lively, filled with laughter and the ring of kids on swings, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on her. She glanced across the open field at the cluster of neighbors gathered in their usual huddle near the parked cars. They stood too close, leaning in with their heads together, too wrapped up in whatever they were discussing. And then she noticed it. A familiar face tucked among them, Mr. Arnold. His warm, inviting smile seemed stretched too wide, his laughter ringing with an unnerving echo. She felt a chill wrap around her spine, the kind that made her want to bolt. "Mommy, can I go play?" Liam tugged on her arm, oblivious to her distress. Sarah hesitated, but she knew she couldn't let fear rule her or him. "Of course, sweetheart. Just stay where I can see you." As Liam dashed towards the swings, a sudden pang of protectiveness surged through her. She took a few steps closer to the cluster of neighbors, hoping to catch snippets of their conversation, desperate for any clue. "That wasn't supposed to happen," a woman's voice dropped to a whisper, tainted with urgency. Sarah strained to hear more, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out the laughter of children. But before she could catch the next word, a loud cry pierced the air. "Liam!" It burst from her lips, frantic and drowning in terror. The innocent playfulness melted away as she scanned the playground. There he was, standing frozen, a shadow draped across him. That shadow was Mr. Arnold, towering too close to her son, his hand petting Liam's hair. An unholy smile curled on Arnold's lips, and Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. "Just telling him a story, dear," he said, his voice unnaturally smooth, "of our lovely neighborhood." In that moment, time slowed. The laughter echoed hollow as Sarah sprinted toward them, fear urging her limbs. She reached Liam just as he looked up at her with wide, confused eyes. "Mom?" "Mr. Arnold was just no," she snapped, cutting him off and pulling him away. "We're leaving. Now." The neighbors' eyes bore into her with a collective intensity. She could feel the weight of their gaze, as if they were drinking in her panic. In their silence, she felt the suffocating grip of their power around her, like they were players in a grand game orchestrated from the shadows. "Mom! What's wrong?" Liam asked, alarmed by her sudden fear. The innocence in his voice mixed with the darkness closing in on them. Sarah could only respond with a resolve born from fear. "Nothing, honey. We just need to go," she said, forcing calm into her voice, but her mind buzzed with the need for answers. As they hurried back home, the sunlight felt dimmer, the shadows thicker, and the whispers louder, curling around her like a dark omen. She needed to find out what the neighbors were hiding before it was too late. But as she stepped inside their house, a knock rattled the door, echoing ominously through the silence. Her heart stopped. Who could be visiting at a time like this? "Sarah," a deep voice called from the other side. It was Mr. Arnold. "I was just checking on you and Liam. Can I come in?" Her mind screamed one thing: not this man. Not now. But flicking a glance at Liam, she knew she couldn't ignore him. The air felt electric with tension, and Sarah was trapped, caught between the sinister world outside and the fragile safety of her home. What lay beyond that door? What did he want? Uncertainty loomed as she slowly reached for the handle, heart in her throat. The door creaked open just enough for Sarah to peer through the narrow slit, and there stood Mr. Arnold, his smile impossibly wide, stretching across his face like a crescent moon amidst a sea of darkness. Every hair on the back of her neck stood up. The warmth of the sun tantalized near the threshold, but all Sarah could feel was the chill rolling off this man. "Just wanted to check in," he said, his voice smoother than honey, dripping with faux concern. "You looked a bit flustered at the park. Is Liam okay?" Behind her, she could feel Liam shuffle closer, innocently intrigued. "Mom, who's that?" "It's Mr. Arnold, sweetheart," she answered, forcing a smile that felt like a mask. The last thing she wanted was to invite this man inside, but the quick glances she stole from the window showed the other neighbors had congregated outside, watching. Observing. "Can I come in?" he asked again, a shadow flickering in his eyes, making her stomach twist. "No. Okay, everything is fine. We just need some time alone," she said, her voice rising in pitch. A nervous blush crept across her cheeks. His smile faltered for a brief moment. "Time alone is important. You should cherish it," he replied, leaning in slightly, the sudden closeness overwhelming her. She tried to close the door, but his hand shot out, pressing against the wood. "Sarah," he hissed, his voice muddled with intensity, "are you sure you want to just be alone? You know, there are things about this neighborhood you might not understand." Sarah swallowed hard, her mouth dry as sand. The air felt thick, suffocating even. Instinctively, she clutched Liam's hand tighter. "We're fine, really." In that instant, the whispers returned, echoing in her mind, reminding her of what she had felt lurking around them. Something was wrong, fundamentally wrong. From the periphery of her vision, she noticed the cluster of neighbors, their heads tilted and eyes narrowed, as if urging Mr. Arnold on, their silence palpable. It was an unspoken agreement, a uniting around their figure, a ritual that frightened her to her core. "Just thought I'd drop off some cookies I baked. They might help," he said, his voice a sing-song chant that resonated unnaturally. "They can take away your worries." "Thanks, but no thanks," she shot back, her resolve steeling. "We need to get back to our routine." Mr. Arnold's smile returned, slicing through her uncertainty. Of course. But remember, if you ever need anything, you just have to ask." With that, he finally stepped back, allowing her to close the door. The lock clicked into place, but that small barrier felt flimsy against the ominous weight building behind it. She turned sharply, her heart racing. "We have to pack. Get what we need, now." "But Mom, why?" Liam asked, confusion etched on his face. "I want to go outside." "No. Not now." She snapped, her breath quickening. "Just listen to me." His innocent inquiry twisted like a knife in her gut. She should have comforted him, reassured him. Instead, the urgency gnawed at her. She scanned the living area, the curtains fluttered slightly, the breeze creeping through the cracks, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. Suddenly, the knocks began again. This time, multiple voices poured from outside, chanting softly, but in unison. The words were indistinguishable, but the tone was haunting, like an echo from a grave. Liam clung to her leg, fear shining in his eyes. "What are they saying?" he whimpered. "I don't know, but we can't stay here. We need to leave right now." She grabbed Liam's hand and dashed to the back door. But as she reached for the doorknob, another sound rang out much crisper. A scratching noise came from the window, as if something was clawing its way inside. Her heart hammered louder than the whispers. "Sarah!" Mr. Arnold's voice broke through the door again. "Don't run away. You're one of us now." The walls felt as if they were closing in. A sickening dread pooled in her stomach. "Mom, I don't want to be here," Liam cried, tears streaming down his cheeks. Her decision had just turned from escape to survival. What kind of neighborhood had they moved into? As 3 sharp raps echoed against the door, she braced herself for the unknown. Would it be time to fight, to flee, or to face whatever dark truth lay ahead? There was no turning back now. The scratching intensified, talons raking against the glass, sending a jolt of ice down Sarah's spine. The soft, rhythmic chants outside harmonized with the sinister sounds demanding entry. "Mom! Make it stop!" Liam's voice pierced through her fog of terror. She turned to him, his tiny face a mix of confusion and fear, and it broke her heart further. "We need to go. Right now." She hissed, adrenaline surging as she grabbed his hand again, the little fingers cold and clammy against hers. They stumbled toward the back door, but an ominous shuffling outside made her freeze. Shadows slithered past the frosted glass, and she strained to glimpse whatever horror awaited them. A split second of hesitation made her grip slacken. "Mom?" Liam whispered, his voice tremulous, eyes wide. The door vibrated as if something was pressing against it, a faint pounding that resonated deep in her bones. Sarah's breath quickened, each inhale sharp and shallow, misting in the icy air that wrapped around them like a serpent. She yanked the back door open only to be met by an empty yard, the porch light flickering unsteadily. An urge to flee surged, but her feet felt rooted to the floor, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. Where did they go? She trembled. "This way, Mommy." Liam pulled her toward the side yard, eyes darting nervously back. Each step felt heavy, weighed down by the inevitable sense of dread. The whispers carried through the air, snaking into her mind, echoing what she had fought so hard to repress. "You belong here, Sarah." Do not leave. The voices wrapped around her like vines, squeezing tighter with every pulse of her heart. "Let us go," she urged, dragging him toward the gate when a figure loomed behind her. Sarah, it was him. Mr. Arnold, emerging from the shadows, the moonlight glinting off his unsettling grin. The backlight cast him in a grotesque form, swallowing the gentle contours of his face. "Don't be afraid," he called softly, but the command shimmered with a sinister edge. "You don't need to run." "Why are you following us?" Sarah shouted, the words stemming from a mixture of anger and fear. "Get away from us." His smile widened impossibly, revealing teeth that seemed far too sharp. The whispering crescendoed, vibrating through the very air she breathed. Around her neck, an icy breath gnawed at her resolve, and shadows danced at her feet. "You're one of us now," he said, that chilling cadence lacing his words. Liam tugged at her arm, pulling her away, but a stiffness gripped her heart. Would it be better to confront this madness head-on? In the far corners of her mind, a horrific sense of belonging twisted with every rational thought. "Liam. We have to run." She grabbed him tighter, turning away from the monstrous presence and shoving the gate open with the force of panic. As they rushed down the dingy alley behind their house, her heart surged with desperate hope. Home was just beyond view, but the path felt like an eternity as echoes of laughter and whispers followed them like a huntress. Shadows shuddered, and the atmosphere grew thick with an unbearable tension that weighed down on her. Halfway down the alley, the ground rumbled underfoot. A sudden crash burst from behind, as if the very bones of the world were trembling. Sarah dared to look back, the sight freezing her soul. The neighbors had gathered, their faces now twisted in a collective gasp, eyes wide and gleaming like mice caught before the hawk. Then, a blood-curdling scream rang out, catching her off guard. It was a familiar sound, but one she hoped never to hear again, the sound of her own voice, rising high above the chaos. "Mom!" Liam's voice sliced through the air, and then all went black. In that thunderous silence, Sarah realized one terrifying truth: they were already trapped. What awaited them in that darkness? Awareness came slowly, like the trickling of water after a long drought. Sarah awoke on the cold, damp ground, her heart pounding as if summoning life in a world steeped in dread. She blinked, eyes adjusting to the haunting darkness that smothered the alley like tar. "Liam!" She gasped, throat raw from fear. Panic twisted inside her, claws scraping against her sanity. Had they been taken? Mommy. His voice echoed back, puncturing the blackness. Relief flooded her veins, but it was tainted by fear. Where are you? In the yard. I can't see. His voice wavered, the urgency reaching a fever pitch, and it set her on edge, forcing her legs to move. She pushed herself up, her palms meeting the damp, cold earth. Good, she was still in the alley, still alive. Liam, I'm coming. She stumbled, hands outstretched, fingers splayed wide as if that would summon the sight she desperately needed. The darkness seemed heavier, squeezing her heart as bits of laughter danced in echo around her. Haunting. Mocking. The alley, once familiar, warped into a labyrinth of shadows, each corner held an unfamiliar weight. She took a tentative step forward, then another, nearly collapsing into the cold wall of the garage that had always been there but felt wrong now. Mommy. Liam's voice again, but now it was accompanied by a soft chorus, a chant unrecognizable yet close enough to churn her stomach. Liam, stay close. She willed her feet to move faster, her breath quickening. The soft glow of the porch light flickered like a dying star ahead, taunting yet pulling her in. Forcing herself to the yard, she scanned the area. Nothing looked as it should. The swing set creaked eerily, the shadows morphing as if alive. The trees hunched over, whispering secrets among themselves. Mommy? His voice cracked, and she shook with dread upon hearing the panic masked behind the small, ghostly sound. She spotted him crouching by the fence, arms wrapped around himself, eyes darting like a trapped bird. Liam. But just as she lunged toward him, a figure stepped into the dim light. It was Mr. Arnold again, his smile now split into a gaping maw, eyes gleaming with something other than life. You can't keep running from what you are, he rasped, voice smooth as silk yet grating against her nerves. Keep him close, Sarah. You both belong here. Get away from us. She yelled, horror flooding her with adrenaline. Liam whimpered, covering his ears. Shadows rippled around them like a storm of darkness. Mommy. He cried again. Please. Filled with dread, Sarah gripped Liam tighter and dashed away from Mr. Arnold. But the shadows twisted and reached for them, clawing at her ankles, pulling them back like haunted whispers. No. She felt every voice as a tangible force, clawing, grasping for her sanity. She ran blindly, heart racing. Dim shapes flashed by, the chanting growing louder. Faint glimmers flickered like fireflies, dancing just beyond reach. Help! She screamed, but the sound diluted into the fog around her. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath Liam's feet. He cried out, the sound of his fear like ice slicing across her flesh. She stumbled, reaching down to grasp his wrist, pulling him back just in time. But the shadows seethed around them, alive and hungry. Every moment you resist only brings you closer to your fate. Mr. Arnold's voice echoed, a sinister lullaby, filling the air with despair. Had it always been this way? Had they truly been trapped long before they even left home? Questions stabbed at her mind, battling with fear and instinct. All around, the whispers pulsed like a heartbeat, hers, Liam's, and all those before them who had wandered too far into the night. Run! She cried. But as the moon dipped beneath the horizon, darkness swallowed them whole once more. The world faded, leaving the pair alone with their desperation and a sinister uncertainty that loomed just beyond sight. What was waiting for them when the light returned? Sarah's breath came in sharp, shallow gasps, her heart pounding as if it might burst. Without warning, the ground beneath her feet felt like it shifted, sending ripples of dread through her body. She clutched Liam tighter, feeling the tremor in his small frame. Mommy, what's happening? His voice quivered, casting a net of anxiety around her. I don't know, sweetie. Just hold on to me, she whispered, squeezing his hand, searching for any sign of the safety that seemed to taunt them. The chilling laughter echoed again, this time rising and falling as if mocking her maternal instinct. Ahead, the shadows converged, swirling together like a dark storm. The porch light flickered, its glow now a malevolent greenish hue that darkened everything around it. "We have to find a way out," she urged, dragging Liam along, but the ground felt like a swamp, sticky with fear and uncertainty. Every step felt heavier, like the shadows were trying to consume her. A flicker of movement caught her eye. A child's swing creaked back and forth even though the air stood still. She spun around, scanning the yard but found only empty spaces tainted with an unearthly presence. "Look!" Liam pointed, voice trembling. From the depths of the darkness, a familiar shape emerged, a figure clad in tattered clothing, face obscured by strands of dark hair. It leaned against a tree, swaying slightly as if caught in a trance. "Mommy, who is that?" A chill snaked down her spine, each instinct urged her to run. "Stay back, Liam." But her warnings were swallowed by the weight of the shadows. The figure stepped forward, revealing hollow eyes filled with an unsettling sadness mixed with something darker, far more sinister. "You shouldn't have come here, Sarah. You've disturbed the peace. Leave us alone." Sarah shouted, desperation fueling her voice. Suddenly, the figure smiled, a twisted grin that sent ripples of fear through her. "They're waiting, you know. All of them." It gestured to the darkness, and for a brief moment, she could see them faces, eyes filled with longing and despair, emerging from the shadows. "Who?" "The ones you lost." The figure's laugh spiraled into a haunting echo that bounced off the trees. "Liam, run." Without waiting, she yanked her son's hand and sprinted towards the house. But the shadows coiled tighter around them. She could feel their touch, like icy fingers brushing against her skin, pulling her back, whispering secrets that were not meant for her ears. The laughter grew louder, a cacophony that overwhelmed her thoughts. The porch was almost within reach when she stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. "Get up," she murmured, every ounce of willpower pushing her forward. She defied until her last breath. "Mommy." Liam stumbled behind her. "I can't see." "Keep your eyes on me." She felt as if the very air conspired against her, the weight of the darkness pressing down. As she stepped onto the porch, she reached for the door handle, but the door swung open on its own with a groan. And then she froze, her heart dropping. Inside, the light flickered, revealing shadows of their old life. Family photos warped, faces twisted into expressions of fear and anguish. Nothing was as it should be. Mommy. Liam's voice was barely a whisper now. "Let us go back." She yelled against the oppressive air, but the laughter grew wild, echoing from the house, bouncing off walls that now felt like they were closing in. "No." But as she turned to flee, the darkness surged, enveloping them both. A sudden flash of light illuminated the yard briefly, and in that moment, she saw their reflection in a nearby puddle. Two hollow eyes stared back, and they weren't her own. "Run, Mommy!" he screamed just before everything faded to black. What horrors awaited them in the depths of their home? What resided there, eager for their arrival? The air inside the house was thick, almost alive, wrapping around Sarah and Liam like a fog of dread. Shadows danced across the walls, flickering with each heartbeat in her chest. She could hardly breathe as she felt the pain of lost memories suffocating her. "Mommy, I can't." Liam's words trailed off, eyes wide and reflecting the chaos surrounding them. "Just stay close." Sarah gripped his small hand tighter, her heart racing. The laughter was louder now, echoing from every corner of the house, as if the walls themselves were mocking their fear. A distortion of everything normal. The room felt foreign. Family photos, once warm reminders of love, revealed grotesque visages instead. The figures twisted and shifted, their eyes bulging, mouths gaping in silent screams. Each frame was a snapshot of horror, reminding her of everything she wanted to forget. "Where do we go?" Sarah whispered, feeling the walls constrict around her. "Through the kitchen." Liam pulled her toward a corridor, leading them away from the living room. It was their only chance. The kitchen was dark, shadows moved like sentient beings, eager to snatch them away. The floor creaked underfoot, protesting their presence, and the icy fingers of fear brushed against Sarah's back. Something was watching them. It was like a presence that seeped in from the corners of the room, breathing down their necks. "Look!" Liam pointed, trembling. The fridge door swung open, revealing a chilling abyss. Inside, it wasn't food that filled the shelves but dark, swirling nothingness. "Stay back!" Sarah shouted, as she felt it pull at her essence, inviting her to step closer. "They want you too!" Liam cried, scaring her with the plea that made her stomach churn. "Do you hear that?" she asked, heart pounding in her ears. A faint rustling hurried behind the closed pantry door. Each soft thud resonated like a heartbeat. "Run!" she urged, pulling Liam away. But the pantry door burst open, and a figure tumbled out, its skin gray and mottled, its eyes sunken like endless pits. It glared at them, mouth twisted in confusion, a grotesque representation of the past. "Why did you leave us, Sarah?" it crooned, voice dripping with sorrow and malice. "No!" she screamed, dragging Liam backwards. But they were trapped between the wall of shadows and the haunting figure. It staggered forward, reaching out with fingers like broken tree branches. "Mommy!" Liam whimpered, his grip slipping. With raw panic tightening her throat, Sarah yanked him closer. "Don't look away, Liam. Keep focused on me." But the room darkened even further, and everything began to blur: the laughter, the shadows, the haunting figure. She could hear whispers in the air now, calling her name, beckoning her closer, closer to the edge of despair. The wooden floor started to crack and split, groaning with the weight of the house's dark history. "Mommy!" Liam screamed, eyes wide with terror, as he was suddenly pulled backward, lured by an unseen force toward the pantry. "No!" Sarah lunged forward, but the darkness stretched and twisted, wrapping around her like a snake, dragging her away from him. Liam's face turned panicked, and as he leaned back against the shadows, the haunting figure smiled a twisted, knowing grin that chilled Sarah to her core. "We've been waiting for this moment," it crooned. In that terrifying moment, the world spun, and the kitchen began to dissolve, as shadows pulled at every part of her being. With a rush of desperate determination, Sarah forced herself forward, knowing she could not lose him again. But with each step closer, the shadows seemed to breathe, exhaling past pains and anguished spirits. What would she have to sacrifice to save her son? What path lay ahead in the depths of this nightmare? As the walls trembled and everything faded into a swirling veil of darkness, one thought burned in her mind: they weren't alone. Would they ever escape this nightmare, or was the house now their eternal prison? The darkness wrapped around them like a shroud, thick and oppressive. Sarah fought against it, each step feeling like wading through a nightmare. She could feel the grip of the horror tightening. Time stretched and warped in the room, the kitchen flickering between what it was and what it could never be again. "Mommy!" Liam's voice was fading into the shadows, the desperation cutting through her like glass. "Help me!" "No, no, no!" She was almost to him, stretching her hand out, fingers grazing his, but the space between them felt infinite. The haunting figure lurked, whispering her name over and over, an echoing mantra filled with both sadness and wrath. She could hardly think, her mind swirling with fear. The figure's mouth twisted into various expressions: grief, anger, longing. Each face created a sickening fear inside her, as if it were a mirror of her own darkest thoughts, reflecting everything she was afraid of becoming. Suddenly, the floor beneath her jolted. A massive crack split the kitchen tiles, sending fragments flying, and with it, a low growl resonated from the depths below. The house seemed alive, groaning louder, vibrating with something beyond her comprehension. "Stay with me, Liam!" she shouted, her voice cracking. She lunged again, propelled by sheer instinct. The shadows seemed to cling to her, tearing at her clothes, trying to hold her back. "Mommy!" The cry came again, louder, more frantic. And then, a rush. Sarah broke through the black mass, reaching Liam's trembling body just in time. She wrapped her arms around him, feeling the warmth of his small form against the impending chill of the dark. But the figure twisted closer, its hands clawing at the air, desperate for connection. "You can't leave us, Sarah." "Not again," it hissed, the voice shifting through tones of anguish and fury. "You're not real," Sarah shouted, squeezing Liam tighter. She could feel the shadows slinking up her legs, circling around her like serpents. Television sets cracked through the noise of silence as distorted images flickered to life. Long-forgotten family gatherings turned into grotesque masquerades. It was their past, but a twisted version. Friends with hollowed cheeks and wide grins stared back at them with knowing eyes. "No, look away. They aren't us," she shouted, her voice rising alongside her panic. The more she tried to pull Liam into the safety of the living, the deeper the shadows snaked around them. They were sinking slowly, like quicksand. She could feel the anger, the pain, the betrayal, all pulling her to the core of the darkness. The hauntings of every choice, every moment she wished she could change surged beneath the surface. "Mommy," Liam whimpered, his eyes shining with tears. Don't give in," she cried, trying to pull free as despair threatened to tear her apart. Shaking off the chilling whispers, Sarah forced herself to focus. There must be a way out, a way to break the cycle. Her heart raced. But the dull growl from below intensified, and with it came a rush of heated air, making the whole kitchen quiver. In one swift motion, time froze. The figure lunged toward them, and everything went silent: the laughter, the cries, the growls. Just the pulse of her racing heart reverberated in her ears. Then, it hit her. The key was not in fighting but in facing her fears, the memories she had buried deep. She turned to the figure, her breath shaky but steady. "If you want me, then come. But you will face what you did." And without warning, the ice-cold glow of the kitchen brightened, the shadows screaming in a cacophony of despair as they peeled away from her. White light engulfed her, illuminating every awful moment, every loss. She felt her heart pound against her chest, wanting to break free. As the waves of brightness surged, Sarah felt herself drawn in, pulled backward, into something new. The figure's grasp weakened, but a determination surged along with her fear. "Mommy!" Liam screamed, arms outstretched, pulled into the light with her. Would she break free, or was this just the beginning of a far darker maze? The brilliant light swallowed them whole, but instead of warmth, it brought a piercing cold that clawed at her bones. In the span of a heartbeat, Sarah and Liam were thrust into a different realm, one that felt at once familiar yet disturbingly altered. The kitchen faded, replaced by a hall lined with doors, each one painted with a different shade of black, the edges ragged and deep. Whispers danced around them, tantalizing and terrifying. Shadows flitted beneath each door, beckoning and warning. "Where are we?" Liam's voice trembled as he clutched her hand like it was a lifeline. "Stay close," Sarah commanded, her heart hammering. They stepped deeper into the corridor, where every door seemed to hum with a low, ominous sound, an echo of the growl from below. She paused in front of the first door, a heavy silence radiating from it. She could feel the weight of memories pressing against her mind, a suffocating reminder of everything she'd lost. She stepped back, shaking her head. "We can't," but Liam, curious and innocent, grabbed the handle. Before she could stop him, he swung it open. Inside, a whirling mist coiled around stilted figures, a family frozen in time, their backs turned to the entrance. Pain twisted in Sarah's gut. It was them, but not as she remembered. The figures looked gaunt and hollow, their laughter rusted into a choked silence. "Mommy, who are they?" Liam peered into the darkness, his small face lit by a flickering bulb. They're not who they seem," Sarah gasped, a sense of foreboding creeping into her veins. The figures began to turn, shadows stretching toward her boy. She slammed the door shut, cutting off their mournful gaze. "Keep moving," she urged, fear igniting her instincts. They passed more doors, each one whispering her name, each more haunting than the last. One door seemed to shine, its brass handle gleaming as if inviting her in. "What if it's a way out?" Liam said, eyes wide. "It could also be a trap," she countered sharply, the words laced with desperation. But as a sudden chill swept through the corridor, her resistance faltered. The thought of being trapped here, forever lost, clanged loudly in her mind. "Search for clues, Sarah," she whispered to herself. "Think." Finally, she stepped forward, accepting the handle. With a deep breath, she turned it, the motion sending shivers coursing through her. The door creaked open, revealing an eerie glow inside. It felt like stepping back into a memory, a snapshot from years past, photos of a laughter-filled backyard, the sun golden. But then, the laughter turned into screams, distorted and thrashing against her ears. Faces melted into the fog around them, encircling them, suffocating her reality. Each face called out, desperate, accusing. "You did this. You abandoned us." "No!" Sarah screamed, shoving her way into the room, desperate to escape the weight of guilt that pressed harder on her chest. The shadows surged, swirling around their feet, whispering secrets of betrayal and abandonment. It was too much. She stumbled back, nearly sending Liam tumbling. "We have to go. Now." They turned to flee, but the corridor twisted, the doors shifting as if the house itself was breathing. The walls warped, closing in around them. Yet through the mayhem, one more door caught her eye. It was slightly ajar, light spilling from within like a beacon. "Liam," she urged, grabbing his hand tight. "This way." But as they sprinted towards the door, the figure from the darkness stood at its threshold, its face now a ghastly mask of sorrow and resentment. "You think you can escape? You cannot outrun your past." Sarah faltered, the air thickening with despair. Panic flooded her senses, drowning out everything else. What would it take to break free from this nightmare? The answer teetered on the edge of her mind, just beyond reach as she approached the monstrous gatekeeper blocking their path. "Please," she whispered. The walls echoed back her plea, reverberating through the twisted memories that clawed for resurgence. What price would she pay to reclaim her son and banish the shadows forever? As she stood face to face with the figure, the world around them spun violently, threatening to pull her back into the abyss. The final confrontation loomed. What would happen next? Would she sacrifice everything she had left to confront the darkness, or would it consume her and Liam for good? The figure loomed before Sarah, blending seamlessly into the shadows that twisted around them. Each moment felt stretched, the weight of the air thick like jelly, pressing down on her chest. "You belong to us, Sarah. You can't deny your past, or the memories that simmer beneath the surface. Get away from us." Sarah screamed, her voice filled with desperation. Liam clung to her leg, his eyes wide and shimmering with fear. The darkness snaked around them tighter, drenching every ounce of hope in waves of despair. "No, it's not true," she shouted, fighting back rising panic. Memories, long buried, clawed their way to the surface, demanding attention. The laughter, the joy twisted into horrifying echoes of pain. The figure's face morphed into grotesque reflections of her past, her young friends, each one a whisper of betrayal. They crowded around her, the faces twisted and gaunt, accusing her with hollow eyes. "You left us, Sarah. You always do." Their voices melded into one, a haunting chorus that enveloped her mind. "Stop it!" she yelled, forcing herself to stand tall despite the crushing weight of guilt pressing down. I never meant to abandon anyone. Liam squeezed her hand tighter, his wide eyes darting from the figure to his mother. Mommy, please. In that moment, Sarah understood. Her voice shook but held strength. I am not here to rewrite the past. I won't be trapped by your regret any longer. As the figure lunged forward, the shadows surged, reaching for them. Sarah braced herself, and a thought flickered in her mind, a way to fight back. The key was not their past, but their future. It was buried in the love she felt for Liam and the hope they could find their way through this chaos together. Come on. She pulled Liam towards the door of light, nearly dragging him behind her. We need to run. They charged toward the glowing threshold, the last flicker of safety, but the path twisted beneath their feet, threatening to pull them apart. Dark tendrils lashed at her legs, trying to root her to the spot, but she pressed on, fueled by sheer instinct. Mommy! Liam cried, his voice taut with fear. I'm right here. She shouted back. Hold on tight. The darkness screamed, the figure's voice echoing far behind them, but Sarah's resolve strengthened. She didn't just fight for herself anymore. She fought for her son. With one powerful shove, she threw herself and Liam across the threshold, bursting through the vortex into light. Brilliant, blinding light engulfed them. Sarah gasped as warmth flooded her body, embracing them like a long-lost friend. The darkness receded like a tide pulling away, leaving only a serene silence in its wake. Breathless, Sarah blinked against the brightness. They were outside, back in their front yard, the sun high above, shining bright in a clear blue sky. She glanced around, astonished. Mommy! Liam chirped, his voice light and carefree. He bounced in place, beaming at her, utterly unchanged by the horrors they defaced. But behind them, the house still loomed, familiar yet foreign. The memories, the whispers hadn't completely faded. Uncertainty flickered in her heart, but Sarah realized the truth: they were free. Liam, let us go. Sarah took his hand, guiding him away from the house of shadows that had trapped them. They walked, the soft grass beneath their shoes grounding her with each step. Where are we going? Liam asked, bright-eyed, oblivious and sweet. A new beginning. Sarah turned her gaze back one last time. The house stood still, shadows creeping along its edges, yet she felt a weight lift. No longer chained to the past, no longer trapped by the looming darkness. As they walked forward, a light breeze swept through, carrying with it the smell of fresh blooms in the neighborhood, symbols of renewal. Perhaps the whispers would fade. With each passing moment, she willed them into the deep. The world around her brightened, and the ground felt steady beneath her feet. Together, they stepped into a brighter future, hand in hand, leaving the shadows of Willow Creek behind forever. But as they reached the end of the street, a soft, disconcerting breeze curled around her. Somewhere, deep inside, she felt a sense of unfinished business. A faint echo teasing at the back of her mind. Mommy? Liam tugged at her. Not now, honey, she whispered, urgency simmering just below the surface. And just like that, the pair moved on, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Now, this journey has ended, but others await. If you don't want to miss out on the next spine-tingling stories, you need to subscribe immediately so you never miss a chilling moment. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and spread the thrill to others. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories on what just happened. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. Your support means everything, so show that you're a true fan of the channel today.